Adoption of teens from foster care is a topic not enough people know about, and we're here to change that. I'm April Dinwiddie, host of the new podcast, Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Each episode brings you compelling real life adoption stories told by the families that live them with commentary from experts. Visit adoptuskids.org/podcast or subscribe to Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families and the Ad Council.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew who I could become. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. The home of Kansas City Royals baseball. KNTA FM First, 93.7 The Ticket.
This is Bigger Than the Score with Peter Ferguson from Lincoln Public Schools on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome into Ticket Weekends. This is Bigger Than the Score. And again, a little bit of special lineup with Pete Ferguson out. We got a new host in studio. We got Antonio, and we'll get to know him a little bit more as we get going here. And again, if you guys want to join the show, 402-464-5685, as well as we're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Allo Channel 951. So again, plenty of ways to join the show and join the streams. Those streams are always a great way to put a face to the voice. And again, this is going to be one you want to stream in for. Pete Ferguson not in studio today. We got our own host taking over. Antonio, how's it going today, man?
Good.
Absolutely. And then I want to ask you, so how do you know Pete?
So I was chosen to be in the MLK Youth Rally.
Okay.
And Peter Ferguson was just helping us through the way.
Okay, that's awesome. What? Tell me a little bit about that Martin Luther King rally and what's all that about?
It's really special. Like, you talk about equality, justice, and it's just really fun.
Absolutely. And then who's all in your family? We'll give them quick shout outs right now.
My mom, my dad, my brother, and my 2 sisters have helped me out a lot.
Okay, and what are their names for them?
My mom, Anita Palacios. My dad, Oscar Palacios. My brother, Oscar, he's a junior.
Okay.
Yeah. My 2 sisters, their name is Dianita and Sylvia.
Absolutely. And then where are you going to school right now?
Goodrich.
Goodrich High School. And you're at 5th grade, right?
I'm in 6th grade.
6th grade? Oh, awesome. So you're getting up there. And again, if you guys want to join the show, 402-464-5685, as this is a special show. And we got Antonio go ahead and hosting it here for us. So, for all those wondering, you got to know Pete and all, but what is something about you, just everyone that we should know about Antonio, whether that's hobbies, sports interest, favorite school subjects, something that you want us to know about you?
My family, all of my family is really into soccer.
Mhm.
It's like our sport. We really like it.
Okay, nice. When did you start getting into soccer?
I was playing soccer when I was like 6 years old.
Okay, and that's your favorite one, you'd say?
Yeah.
You got a favorite soccer player by any chance?
Yeah. His name is Mohamed Salah.
Okay, nice. You surprised me there. I have to research my own knowledge. I could have gave you Messi and Ronaldo. That's about where my knowledge runs. And then, we'll go ahead and bring Phil in here as well. Sorry, Phil, had your mic cut off, but I had a little bit of input there.
That's okay. I heard the soccer. I was totally expecting Messi as the answer, but he rattled off a name I wasn't ready for. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then, I'm just kind of curious, as you're getting into the school year, Antonio, what are you really excited about as the school year's kind of getting rolling here for us?
I'm really excited about all the opportunities that I have as a middle schooler and just preparing myself for high school and for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. And, I'll give you credit. You're a lot more locked in than I was at this stage. I don't know if I'd be willing to necessarily host a radio show when I'm entering my sixth grade year. But nonetheless, I kind of want to know a little bit more. So, out of school, what are some of those favorite subjects? I kind of asked you before, but I'm curious to know what Antonio really enjoys doing in school right now.
Right now, I really enjoy math. It's been really fun, and I have a great teacher, Mr. Adams.
Mr. Adams, shout out. What makes Mr. Adams such a great teacher?
He's fun and he teaches us and he enforces the rules all at the same time.
That's impressive. I'll give him that. That's a tricky balance, as I'm sure Phil and Pete Ferguson would understand greatly. To be
Keeping
that
it fun and enforcing rules. It is that balance there for sure.
Absolutely. And then for all our listeners out there, how old are you, Antonio?
I'm 11 years old.
11 years old, and he's hosting Bigger Than the Score. And I might have to talk to DP here and see if we got some paperwork, get Antonio signed up and ready to go. And again, 402-464-5685. Before we bring anyone else in here, we do just got Antonio, and you guys can ask all sorts of questions. So, Antonio, you're into math. You're soccer players, your favorite sport. Or do you play soccer right now currently as well?
Yeah.
Okay, what position?
I really play like all over the field. I don't have a position just yet.
Just an athlete, that's the kind of best position to be, right? And again, if you guys want to join the show, 402-464-5685. So, Antonio, as you're going into your sixth grade year, what are you most looking forward to? Is it more responsibility? Is it just kind of moving up there in the social hierarchy of what we call school, or what are you looking forward to?
I'm really looking forward to like all the new people that I'm gonna meet and just see how they cooperate with each other and just ready to be a part of the community.
Absolutely. And I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. I know you're only getting into sixth grade, but you're showing me a lot of leadership skills already. How can you be a kind of a leader and represent just a good moral character for your classmates going into the school year?
Just doing what I'm supposed to, doing like my homework and all that, listening to my parents and my teachers.
Absolutely. Man, I'll tell you what, a lot of those teachers are going to be happy to have Antonio walk into their classroom with the mindset he has. And, Phil, I want to ask you a little bit about Antonio as well before we go to break, because he's a humble guy. I'm getting that right off the bat. But tell me a little bit about Antonio, and then we'll kind of wrap it up here.
Well, and this is me. I'm getting to meet Antonio for the first time today as well. So It's been pretty exciting. I have met him. I've seen Antonio before. I've attended the MLK Youth Rally. And I remember watching you present up on stage with some of your peers from Belmont back in the day, Miss Bobby Ehrlich's class. And just seeing some of those kids and their passion. I think you had a lot of your presentation was behind music and stuff, and you kind of associated music with MLK, and it was kind of a really neat display of equity, and it was a really kind of a cool way for them to kind of share their thinking through kind of a new way for us to see it. I wouldn't have associated those two worlds, but they kind of really put it out there in kind of a special way. Antonio, I'm excited because he's jumping from the elementary world into the middle school world right now. He's going from Belmont to Goodrich, and my son is in that same transition right now. He's going from middle school, elementary to middle school too. So I'm seeing a lot of those changes. There's a lot of new opportunities once you get to middle school, the classes that you're taking. My son says he gets PE like every other day, so that's kind of a big deal. Do you get that too, Antonio? Yeah. And that's a favorite, but it's also bringing the Chromebooks home. And I found out recently, I was telling our other guest outside that I guess we can order ice cream at lunch now because I'm finding these bills on my chart at home.
Yeah, I must have missed that window too.
I don't remember getting that chance.
But again, we're going to have a couple of guests ahead here, Phil Maynard being one of them. We're going to have Antonio go ahead and interview Phil and Ellie Ekman as we both have them here in studio. I'm excited to see. And again, I might have to look elsewhere for my job here, depending on how well Antonio does. Sure. And again, we're super excited. 402-464-5685. We're going to have Antonio kind of take over here on the rest of the Bigger Than the Score. Obviously, we'll all still be in studio here with them. But nonetheless, Bigger Than the Score with Harrison, Antonio, Phil, and Ellie. We'll be back right after the break.
General contractors, business owners, property owners. The success of your business requires doing business with the right people. And the right people, when it comes to drywall, acoustical ceilings, and specialty products, are at Premier Drywall. Kevin and his crew will give your project the response and attention it deserves.
You'll get all of the attention to detail and quality that you would expect from someone who's been in the business for 30 years. For your new builds, build-outs, or renovations, reach out to Kevin. Kevin at PremierDW.com. Premier Drywall in Lincoln.
Hot tub season is here, and to celebrate, Bonsall Pool and Spa is having a Labor Day sale so good that they're offering it for the whole week. Purchase a new High Life Collection or Limelight Collection spa and receive a free step and cover lifter from now until September 11th. Stock will go fast, so hurry in and claim your new spa today. It's the Labor Day sale from September 1st through the 11th at Bonsall Pool and Spa at 33rd and Highway 2 or at bonsallpool.com.
Long hikes with friends, kayaking adventures with family, more horseback riding, zip line gliding, rock face climbing, hammock camping fun than you could ever imagine. And it's all outdoors, amongst the trees across the prairie, here beneath Nebraska skies. Plan an outing today at StoreNebraskaAdventure.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, here with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
On the block with Strick and Austin.
Do we need to rename him Jedi McCarthy?
Oh, yeah, that would be funny. Yeah, he kind of looks like Luke Skywalker.
Is Jim Harbaugh or is Obi-Wan?
Probably Obi-Wan.
JJ McCarthy and your Yoda. That's what you have to do to have a successful season and be a first-round quarterback next year.
Weekdays from 2 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. He was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide. Complete your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Serve Nebraska believes that volunteers are part of what makes Nebraska great. Each year, the Step Forward Awards honors volunteers from across the state who serve their communities in outstanding ways. We hope you'll join us this year at the Step Forward Awards luncheon on October 6th in Lincoln. To register, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Register Now. We hope to see you there. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is where it happens. Long hikes with friends, kayaking adventures with family, more horseback riding, zip line gliding, rock face climbing, hammock camping fun than you could ever imagine. And it's all outdoors, amongst the trees across the prairie, here beneath Nebraska skies. Plan an outing today. StoreNebraskaAdventure.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, and Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
The captain versus Sean Jackson.
There are 11 blacks that they not 14. Not 14. Of the top 11 guys.
Hey, I like it. That's Charlie McBride made it like that. Oh, MJ Sherman.
I don't mean you can't get one.
No, you said 11.
That don't mean you can't earn it. No, there's others.
No,
there's 11. Come on, Terrell. You don't got to do that.
11.
Back to Bigger Than the Score with Peter Ferguson from Lincoln Public Schools on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into Ticket Weekends. Again, this is Bigger Than the Score. I am Harrison running the board here. We got the new host, Antonio, filling in for Pete Ferguson, and now we got a full room of guests. We got Ellie Ekman, Phil Maynard, both in studio as well. But, I'd say we're pretty much at this point now where it's safe to hand it over to Antonio. And, Antonio, I'll go ahead and ask you to go on and get a little bit to know, ask about these guys, kind of figure out what they're up to.
All right. Well, thank you. And tell me a little about yourself.
Well, hi, Antonio. My name is Phil Maynard. I'm an educator for Lincoln Public Schools. I've been teaching for about 23 years now. Let's see. I started with Lincoln Public Schools in 2001, and I went to school here in town and have been a teacher since then. Taught at Belmont here in town, which I know that you're an alumni of as well. And then I taught in Chicago Public Schools for a while before coming back here and teaching at Brownell. And now I'm over at Saratoga, where I'm the instructional coach. I've got a family of 3. My son Parker is the same age as you. He's a 6th grader over at SCO. And other than that, I've got a dog and a cat, a dog named Bear and a cat named Link after our Zelda. We're big Zelda fans at our house. So that's how that cat got that name. But other than that, I'm a pretty low-key guy. How are you today?
I'm good.
Good.
It sounds like you've been all around the place.
I have. I've been a few different places, and I'm loving being at Saratoga right now. This is my 4th year there. Yeah.
That's incredible. And again, I do want to get to the text line here, 402-464-5685. We do have Pete Ferguson shouting out. He said, go ahead, Antonio, making it happen. For all those curious, he's at Salt Lake Airport. And he says, go Lopers for the 4-0 on the weekend. So, of course, Pete Ferguson going to shout him out. Neil says Antonio was fantastic and modest. He sold the show away at the annual youth rally. If we got some time, I kind of want to go ahead and ask about that as well. But, Antonio, I'll let you go ahead and introduce our next guest, Ellie Ekman.
So tell me a little about yourself.
My name is Ellie Ekman. I'm a 10th grader at Lincoln Southwest High School. I participate in volleyball and tennis and choir. I'm also part of FBLA, and I'm an ambassador for Southwest. I have a little sister named Harper. She's 9 years old. She's in 3rd grade at Adams. She's really fun. She's like my favorite person in the world. And then both my parents are in the education world. Most of my family is actually. So I was able to grow up with a lot of school-related and education in my family. So,
as you were talking, Ellie, you said ambassador. Can you tell me a little bit more? I'm curious. What is that ambassador role?
So ambassadors are people that give tours to new students. So when a transfer comes in, or like when freshmen come in, like we're able to give them tours, answer questions about high school, basically just make the transition a bit easier for them so that their nerves are kind of washed away.
That would make me feel more comfortable. I think coming to school, not just trying to find, I think this is my class. Well, let me help
Right,
you. That would be very helpful.
Absolutely. And then, Antonio, is there anything you kind of want to ask Ellie? I was just further along in school that maybe you're curious, you want to know about as it kind of looks like as you get older up there in school.
So how do you balance all your schoolwork and what you do for your sport?
It's definitely hard finding that balance for like, especially when I have practice after school and games. You really just gotta like manage your time well. So I have block scheduling at Southwest, which means I have longer classes. So luckily I do get some time in class to usually work on a bit, but also just like right when I get home from practice, it's right to like my textbook or right to my Chromebook, just working on whatever I need to. Yeah, just managing that is really important, I think.
I think that's a good question, Antonio. You think about as you're getting older, how are you going to balance those two worlds? You've got athletics, you've got other activities that you're in, but you also have the academic part of school and trying to keep those worlds together and trying to maintain positive goals in both those aspects. You've really got to be organized.
For sure, yeah.
Absolutely. Antonio, obviously you don't have as much as on your plate right now, but hearing about some of the things you do already at the 6th grade level, how do you kind of handle your time? You're obviously young, but you involve yourself in a lot of things. How do you stay focused?
Usually I don't put things like to the last minute. I like just wanted to get it done, and I schedule out like what I have, what activities I have, and what needs to be done.
Absolutely. And again, I'm sure Phil Maynard is an expert on staying organized. Do you have any questions for Phil Maynard on his expertise for staying organized? Because you said it yourself, he's a man that travels quite a bit. He's been around.
Organized. Yeah, I'm a big believer in checklists, man. Writing things down and crossing them off once I get done. If you look at my desk, I got a lot of different sticky notes. I got a lot of different lists that you might see a line drawn through. You might see some with a question mark by that I'm going to get to later. But I'm a big believer in lists and trying to make sure that I'm prioritizing the right things and not just doing the things that I want to do, but the things that are important as well.
Absolutely. And then Antonio, right now, what are kind of some of your interests? I don't want to say career paths you're looking to, but is there any, kind of occupations right now, even if it's a pro soccer player, something that you really think's cool that, hey, this might be when I get older, I want to look into?
I was guessing radio DJ.
I'm really interested being a doctor.
Okay.
I think that career path would be really cool.
What is it about being a doctor? Is it the aspect of helping people? Is it the money you make? Because hey, that's a fair argument to make.
Helping people is a big part of it, because I just want to help as much as I can.
Absolutely, and that's always a good cause as well. And I kind of wanted to get to know Ellie a little bit more as well. And Antonio, do you have any questions for Ellie, kind of regarding how she, going through school, kind of had to get focused and figure out that kind of time management we talked about. But in terms of just finding, I don't want to say this, finding good friends, good relationships to build around, any questions regarding to her, how to handle those interactions with teachers, how to treat them, and how to get that best classroom relationship experience.
Well, I wanna ask, is there anyone who helps you out in particular, who helps you get through school?
I think all my teachers are just real big helpers through that. I respect them so much. They their job is to help kids, and they definitely do an amazing job of that. And all my teachers are really good at helping me. So if I ever do feel like I'm struggling, or I do feel like I could understand something better, I definitely feel comfortable going up to them and asking them, and I know that they'll help me as best as they can. I also think with the athletics part of it, my teammates are going through the same thing that I am. So we can all help each other, and if we're in the same class, we can study together after practice or on bus rides. So definitely finding that group of people that has similar interests, I think, can help you. And then just building those strong relationships with your teachers, I think also is a big part of school.
And then I kind of want to ask the whole room this, because I can remember, a handful of teachers that I had growing up that really did have an impact. I remember them for a lot of the great things, and morally just being good people too, that really impacted me. I'll start with you, Ellie. Is there any teachers, and if you want to name them by name, that's great. If not, you don't have to do so. That really had a significant impact about them. And what was it? Was it just the extra time they took to talk to you? Was it the extra interest in your classes? Was there ever a moment that a teacher did something that really had that impact that you think all teachers can maybe replicate?
I feel like all my teachers throughout every grade level have just been amazing. It's hard to name a few. One that really stood out to me was Mrs. Davis at Scott Middle School. She's my math teacher, and she just really made sure that every student was being understood what was going on. She was more about the learning instead of the outcome. It was more about how you got the answer instead of did you get the right answer. So I think that really just helped me think about it that way, and just helped me be more open and confident about making mistakes too, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. And Antonio, what about you? You have any great teachers that, maybe had a really unique way or just great relationship with you that really helped you along the way?
My 5th grade teacher, Bobby Ehrlich, she was a great teacher. She showed love to every single person she encountered, and she just helped me out a lot through 5th grade.
Absolutely. And then Phil, I'm going to ask you to re-jog your memory a little bit here.
Yeah, I got to get my DeLorean here. But talking to Antonio, I know Miss Ehrlich, and she's fantastic. I was fortunate to work with her at Belmont for many years, and definitely one of the best that I've ever had the chance to work with. I'm going to go back. This is my 5th grade teacher in Hastings. Her name was Miss Fike, and she's probably one of the main reasons was a teacher after that when I grew up. she made you feel welcome. You walked in that classroom and you felt like you were a part of something bigger. She'd always check on you, not only about academics, but everything else. If you were doing something, I remember I wrestled as like an alternative activity when I was like in 5th grade, 102 pounds. Real tough back then. But I remember she would constantly be asking me about this wrestling. She'd want me to talk to the class about sharing the things that I learned. And I didn't learn anything about wrestling, but she was giving me that time to kind of share that thing. But as a classroom, a lot of that was just, it got to me that she helped us understand that attitudes are contagious. When you come into a classroom, the attitude that I portray or that others share, others are going to pick up on that, and you're going to have an experience and it's going to be positive. But if you have somebody with a negative attitude, that can really spread out and it can really change to more of a fixed mindset. So when I have that optimism and my attitude can be contagious, I think that really shares with students as well and creates that positive classroom environment.
Absolutely. And I'm kind of curious, to creating that positive classroom environment. And Antonio, I'm going to ask you for help on this. I'm going to let you think of a question. While I ask mine, I want you to think on your next one, kind of asking Phil about some of his roles as a teacher. So Phil, I'm kind of curious. He talks about creating that positive classroom environment other than just showing up with a smile. What are some other things you do to kind of get those kids in an environment ready to learn?
A lot of it had to go back to my thinking about, I never know what kids come to school, what's happened to them that morning. You don't know if they've missed breakfast. You don't know if they're getting their brothers and sisters ready. You don't know if it was a long night. I have no idea what goes on sometimes outside the doors of my building. So I know I can be that positive person when they come into the classroom. I'm going to be that smile. I'm going to let them know that this is that safe place. But I'm also going to show interest. I'm going to smile. And I'm also going to try and remember things about every single kid. So I can say, hey, how did that soccer game go? Or, ooh, you had that dance recital this weekend. Were you able to get that? I'm not going to even try and say a dance move because it would just go bad. But just being that person for somebody at school so they know that they feel safe, that this is a place for them to have a chance to be successful and take risks.
Yeah, absolutely. And Antonio, before we get to your question, since we're shouting out teachers, I'll go ahead and shout out Mrs. Hamilton. She used to be my choir teacher back in the day. And it kind of like what you said, right? Was always there. Obviously, the school stuff, you'd hope she's there for it, and she absolutely was. But there's extra things, if you were walking, with the cast one day, or maybe football, you're walking with a little bit of a gimp, she'd stop and ask you, it's like, what happened? And that extra concern, right? To make sure outside the classroom, I care about you mentally and physically as well. How you doing? And that meant a big deal to me. So again, I want to shout her out. She was a great teacher. Not sure if she has the ticket app back in Northeast Nebraska, but nonetheless, if she ever gets to her ear, that's great. But Antonio, do you have anything for Phil regarding, what does he do to kind of make a great classroom?
So you've been an educator throughout everywhere.
We don't need to remind people how old I am, Antonio, but go for it.
So you've encountered a lot of scholars who've been struggling. You've also encountered a lot of adults. So what would your advice be for not only scholars, adults, but for the whole world if they saw this?
Oh wow, that's pretty deep, Antonio. I just want them to remember that they're not up. It's not a battle or a journey that they have to take on their own. That there are people in their corners, and I want to be that person in their corner for those kids and help them be successful. And I think as adults that are dealing with scholars, you really just to listen. These scholars, they're vocalizing, they're telling you the things that they need, their wants, what their goals and attributions are. And if you can help, be that person from where they are to where they want to be, I think that's really kind of a cool thing. That's a great question, Antonio.
Absolutely. And then Ellie, I'll ask you one more question before we go ahead and send it to our second break here. We kind of talked about it on Phil's aspect of what it looks like being a teacher, bringing a positive environment to the classroom. But as a student, what are some things that you can do just to be a better leader in the classroom and have that, respect for your classmates, but also at the same time being respectful towards that teacher? What are some of the things you can do to be a good leader in the classroom?
Yeah, well, I think Antonio kind of touched on it earlier, but just doing what you're supposed to do, getting your homework done, listening to the teacher, staying focused in class. Yes, you can talk to your friends, but save that for a time when it's not interrupting learning. And I think just being that kid that people can come to if they need help also. Here, I'll help you with your, understand this problem, or did you not hear, what we're supposed to do tonight? I'll let you know, we have to do this page for homework. Just being that person that helps people in your classroom be the better people that they can be.
Absolutely. And again, I think we're gonna have to shout out Mrs. Fike again, because we have Mississippi Mud Dog from the text line said, I had Mrs. Fike as a teacher back in the day too. Wonderful lady. So again, it kind of shows those teachers' impacts. You never know how many kids and how many lives they impact. But I guarantee you, everyone you talk to, they have a few teachers in the back of their head. They're like, yeah, that person had a significant role in kind of forming who I was. So again, it's a super important position, and that's why we have to support these guys. And it's awesome to have a student like Antonio in here going and asking these questions. So we're going to have one more segment again with Antonio taking over for Pete Ferguson on Bigger Than the Score. You guys can always join the show on the Starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685. Shout out to Mississippi Mud Dog and a few unknown texters that I already have. And again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Allo, Channel 951. You can match a face to the voice there. This is Bigger Than the Score. We'll catch you guys on the other side of the break.
There's a buzz in the air at Kansas. Maybe it's the roar of fans here at the track, or the anticipation of the playoffs as drivers fight to move on to next round and keep their championship alive. It's the pulse of the heartland, the thrill of speed, or the sounds of grills sizzling in the campgrounds. Whatever it is, it will be one memorable weekend. NASCAR Playoffs Weekend at Kansas Speedway, September 8th through the 10th. Get your tickets today at kansasspeedway.com.
Old School with DP and J.
You know, earning a black shirt is a great honor. I mean, obviously you got coaches that haven't been here before, but at the end you understand somewhat of what it means. And the majority of the guys, or the guys that got them, they must have done something. For me personally, you know, that was just something I never forgot, man. It was just when I was on campus, because I never envisioned myself doing anything until my senior year.
97 The Ticket and the TFM.com.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, call 988 for free, confidential, and compassionate support. On July 16th, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is transitioning to 988. There is hope. For 24/7 support, call, text, or chat 988.
Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
How was your drive to school?
I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm excited. I had to text all my right then to talk about it. Then someone started calling me Anne.
Try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, stretch your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, your face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fund.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
My early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take, but it gave my mom and me a time plan together.
Talk to your family about seeing a doctor. Go to alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Our sense of smell can tell us a lot. Crisp baked apple pie, good. Cigarette smoke, bad. But what happens when bad things smell good? When secondhand vape smells like strawberries, or mangoes, or cotton candy, and dangerous chemicals have a disguise. That's when people let their guard down around secondhand smoke, even though it's all full of harmful chemicals.
Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
If you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music,
This is Mommy's jam.
then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at tsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The captain for Sean Jackson.
There are 11 black shirts handed out.
Not 14.
Not 14.
Oh, the top 11 guys.
Hey.
I like it.
Well,
That's Charlie McBride made it like that. No MJ Sherman.
That don't mean you can't get one.
Oh, you said 11.
That don't mean you can't earn it. No, there's others.
No,
There's
11.
others. Come on, Terrell.
Just going by what you just said. 11.
Only the people.
11 with the 11 with the look. 11.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, up your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. One hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Veteran, do you know what local, state, and federal benefits and services you're eligible to receive? Do you want help navigating the application or appeals process? Speak to your county veteran service officer or the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs State Service Office to see what's available to you and your family. You've served our country, now let us serve you. Visit veterans.nebraska.gov today. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Adoption of teens from foster care is a topic not enough people know about, and we're here to change that. I'm April Dinwiddie, host of the new podcast, Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Each brings you compelling real-life adoption stories told by the families that live them with commentary from experts. Visit adoptuskids.org/podcast or subscribe to Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families and the Ad Council.
Back, bigger than the score, with Peter Ferguson from Lincoln Public Schools on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into Ticket Weekends. This is the final segment of Bigger Than the Score special edition, as we have Antonio taking over for the initial host, Pete Ferguson. And we talked a little bit over the break, and one of the questions we had that we were trying to talk to each other is, what in the world could Pete Ferguson possibly be up to right now down in Utah? So, Phil, I'll go ahead and start with you. Any guesses on what he might be up to?
I know Pete is near where the Winter Olympics were some years ago, and he has talked to me about Brian Boitano many, many times and his fascination with figure skating. So I think he might be actually doing some figure skating practice trials down there.
I can see
That's
that.
kind of my assumption. He was shopping for leotards before I left, so I think that might be where we're going.
That sounds. I think he mentioned that before he left
Yeah,
too,
did
what
he?
he's going to be
Okay,
up to.
good,
So I
good,
think we're on the same page here. Antonio, any guesses for what Pete Ferguson could be up to?
I think Pete would be listening right now.
He took the smarter route. He's like, I think he's listening
probably
now, so I'm going to bite my tongue. And Ellie, I think we'll save you the question since I pointed out that Pete's probably listening. But nonetheless, I appreciate Pete Ferguson for all he does. And for all those listening, he is the normal host. And if you missed any of his shows, he does do great work. And because of him, we get to hear from a lot of great scholars. Not only that, from teachers, from coaches. He gets pretty much everyone in here. And again, ticketfm.com, Bigger Than the Score. You can catch all the shows there because Pete Ferguson does a great job. But we have Antonio here doing a great job as well, filling in for him. So, Antonio, as we got some time here, you had about 10, 12 minutes or so. Is there any questions that you want to ask Ellie or Phil just about personal hobbies? What they might be into, what they do for fun.
Yeah. What sport do you play, and what sport do you attend to?
So for sports, I play volleyball and tennis. I used to play basketball, which is actually how I know Pete because he was my basketball director. So if I was to say, I think he's doing some 10 and 60s right now, which are some conditioning drills. He's getting in shape. But yeah, I played basketball for a little while and then took a break just because 3-sport athletes, that's a ton of time commitment. And there are people who do it amazing, but I just wanted to take a bit of a season off. But so yeah, volleyball is my main sport. I love it. Been playing it forever. And then I started up tennis a little after COVID to get me something else to do. So it's a lot of fun for sure playing in high school.
Absolutely. And then do you have any questions for Phil kind of on what he likes to do on his free time since he's a pretty busy guy himself?
Yeah, when you're not grading homework or something or looking at tests, what do you do in your free time?
Well, fortunately, I'm an instructional coach, so I don't grade as much as I used to, but I know that teachers are grading hard this weekend. I'm a big family guy. I coach my son's soccer team. Maybe we can work out a scrimmage with the Dreamers. We'll figure something out. And it's a lot of fun. We get together, we practice. We've all been playing together for about 3 or 4 years now. And then I love music as well. I play a little baritone ukulele, which I picked up during the pandemic. It was one of those things. It's like, hey, if I don't do it now, I got a little bit of time every day, and now I find it's a good way to just kind of calm down. And I like to read. I like to listen to music. I've got a good vinyl album collection. Pretty impressed by. And other than that, just hanging out with family and friends.
Absolutely. And, you kind of mentioned something there, and I'm curious, I've never gotten asked someone kind of your age group. What was kind of going through COVID in your age group like? What was that like for you kind of going through that whole experience, not being able to see your friends as normally as much as you would?
And I was zoomed in third grade, so it was nice to because my mom was working from home too, and it was nice to just be in the house with her. And if anything happened, I could go to her for help. But it definitely impacted me not being able to be in the community and interact with other people. But we got through it and we had a great time.
Yeah, amen to that. We got through it, and that is truth. But you mentioned something again there that really tricked my ears. You said something about not being able to be, as much involved with the community and talking to you and getting to know. That's pretty big on you. You like doing things for the community. Why is that so important to do things for the community?
Because um because the communities where you live, where you you get all your stuff from, like what I'm sorry.
No, I know what you're trying to say there, right? It's kind of where you get everything from. It's who you interact with every day. It's where, all your small businesses are at. It's where people you're going to act with the most. That's who they're going to be in your local community. So I think you're kind of speaking on that end there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the route you're going there.
Well, and I think that pandemic would have been hard in any time frame. And it was interesting, my son being the same age as Antonio, to see the way that he would talk to his friends. It was like, oh, holy cow, messenger kids. They're talking, they're playing Roblox together. It was just new ways for them to connect. And I think about me when I was a youth, we would have never had anything like that. So it was kind of a cool. I actually saw one of my son's friendships that wasn't as strong when he was younger probably grow stronger through the pandemic because of that, being able to communicate online and stuff. I thought that was really we were fortunate that we're that far along.
Absolutely. And Ellie, I'll kind of ask the same thing to you. What was that whole COVID experience kind of from your perspective?
It was definitely a crazy time. I remember when it first started and they were like, okay, no school for a week or something. And everybody was like, woo, no school. And then it actually became something serious. And by the second week, we're all just like, okay, I want to go back. I want to see my friends. I want to see my teachers, all of that. It was definitely interesting doing school, online, having to do all these assignments that, you didn't really get instructions on. It was only through classes. It's really just, having to figure it out a bit on your own. You could email teachers, you could Zoom in, but it was still just a different environment, I guess. It was just very weird trying to figure that all out, I think.
It was, and I agree from the educator aspect.
Yeah.
It was just all of a sudden we had spring break, and then it was oh, don't come back yet. And it was oh, we're extending it spring break, but no, it's gonna continue.
Yeah.
And I think even as teaching, you're trying to teach kids online, and we had no idea where we're going at that moment. So we all had to get all hands on deck and say, okay, we need to figure out how are we gonna move forward.
Right, for sure.
Absolutely. And again, I think and in particular, that was just such a really hard time. I was lucky to kind of be out of high school at the time, so I didn't have to go through it. But I know a lot of kids, you're missing your senior football season, whether that be prom. I was lucky I didn't have to miss any of that, but I can imagine that'd be hard on a lot of people there. So Antonio, we kind of talked a little bit about, possibly what your future might be, what your interests are. We talked about these guys, kind of what they do for school. Is there anything that you're curious about that you kind of want to ask these guys, whether that be just, ideas about when you start getting older, how to stay focused, how to really start prioritizing certain routes to go? I'll ask you this, we'll simplify it. What are your guys' thoughts on kind of being multi-involved? Because Antonio, you do this very well. You're very multi-involved in everything. Do you have any questions for these guys, how to be multi-involved, and maybe what are some of the benefits of being multi-involved?
So both you guys touched on communication earlier, and like it's important to have someone on your side and someone to trust, like not only to have your back but to also have your front. So how is that important?
I would agree that I was always a joiner, I think, growing up, and even when I started working and stuff, because I wanted to know what was going on, and I always felt like if I can join, I can be a direct, and it would be a one-one conversation instead of hearing hearsay later down the road. So that was kind of my commitment was if I'm a part of this, I'm going to know what's happening, and I can kind of share, and I can be that advocate, and I can put it out there. But you're absolutely right. Having those people that you can communicate with that have that shared thinking, it can really help move you forward.
Excuse me, I lost my mic there for a second. Allie, do you have anything to kind of add to that as well? Same question for you.
I think we've kind of like touched on a lot of it, but just communication is just like really a big thing. Like especially if you're gonna like miss school or like miss a class and stuff. I think communicating with your teachers before that will help you like succeed. I think because you will get stuff done, and then with the group of people, like I said earlier, like playing sports, you have that group of teammates that are going through similar things. So having those people in your corner that can relate to what you're going through is really beneficial for you, like in the long run.
Absolutely. We do have Pete once again from text line saying Ellie is a fantastic scholar who is making it happen both and off the court. And he said, Ellie just told you what kind of coach I am. The fact she no longer plays. So, so again, Pete Ferguson chiming in there as always. Appreciate the feedback. And again, we got about 5 more minutes here. You know, I kind of want to ask this between all you guys as we're kind of wrapping things up here. You know, what are some things that we asked Antonio this, but what are some things that we should know about Ellie Ekman that we might not be able to pick up from just 1 hour?
I have just a lot of different hobbies. Like I love singing, I love baking, reading. And, like a lot of people don't know that. Like a lot of people know I play sports, but I think those other extracurriculars are just like things that a lot of people don't know. Also, just like spending time with my family and friends are just like super important to me. Like whenever I have free time, I just try to spend as much time with them as I can.
Well, and Ellie comes from a family educator.
Yeah.
She hasn't dropped that knowledge yet. And I'm looking at her dad over here. Scott's over here in the corner, and I was fortunate enough to work with him. And also her mom I worked with for a while, and I know she's a teacher over at Adams. I used to call him one of the LPS power couples back in the day. He's nodding his head over there. He knows
they're
what I'm
laughing.
talking about. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Phil, I'm going to ask the same thing to you. You know, you've had a few visits on the show, but obviously we don't know everything. What are some things that we might want to know about you that we won't be able to pick up? In
Okay,
just 1
first
hour?
I'm gonna do my shout outs, Harrison.
Let's hear 'em.
First is to my grandma in Sac City, Iowa. I know you're listening this morning. I want to give a shout out. Good morning, Grandpa. My Uncle Dave, who's in Sac City, Iowa, too. Good morning. I'm glad you guys are tuning in. And I guess other things that I'm involved in that I kind of have. I wind down at night. Typically, I'm guessing like some of these kids do. I'm a big Fortniter. I
No
play.
way.
Oh, I play Fortnite probably at least 4 nights a week. Do you play Fortnite, Antonio?
Kinda, yeah.
Kinda. I was ready to talk because I had some questions. I have some quests I'm struggling with right now. So, but yeah, that's kind of my wind down, and my kid loves it. So we get a chance. We have his Switch right next to my PS4, so we can kind of play on teams together and work out. So yeah.
No, yep, I didn't know that. So it's good thing I asked that
Please,
question.
yeah, dropping knowledge on you every day.
That's incredible. Antonio, would you ever play with him on Fortnite?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to carry me. I'm not very good.
And then Antonio, you know, as we've gone through here, you know, was there anything that you might have left out that you want people to kind of know about you?
Not really, but I would like to mention my family again.
Mhm.
Without them, I could have never made it to where I'm at right now. My mom, Anita, has helped me out a lot through my life, and also my dad, Oscar.
Absolutely. And that's incredible that you kind of have that appreciation already. And that's a good thing to have.
Very proud mom over here. I love it.
Absolutely. As they should, because he's doing a great job so far. So again, Antonio, I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to kind of ask Ellie the same thing. You know, school year, it's pretty early in it. You know, what are some of your own goals heading into the school year, whether it's grades, whether it's how you want to be in the eyes of your classmates? What is something that by the end of the school year, you want to be able to say, I did this in the best way I could?
I really want to be a leader for like other scholars who might be struggling. I want to give them an example of like how it should look like and how it should sound like.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's important because it sounds easy enough, right? And I'm sure, Phil and I and even Ellie, we can all probably think of times when easy enough, but when that peer pressure comes into play to do the right thing isn't always the cool thing to do, right?
Yeah, that's where I go back to thinking attitudes are contagious. It's who
Mhm.
you surround yourself with. It's really easy to make bad choices when you're around folks that don't always make the best choices. But if you surround yourself with positive thinking people, you're going to think that way as well.
Absolutely. So, if you're Antonio's class, there's definitely a guy you want to hang around with.
Oh,
'cause
for
he's
sure.
It's going to be a good influence.
We're going
on
to be
you.
playing Fortnite later. I would
And then, Ellie, kind of the same question to you. What are some goals that by the end of the year you want to say you did this to the best of my ability?
I'm taking some tough classes this year, so I think one thing I really hope to do is like work hard and like try my best to keep my grades up and like stick with some A's. But then like more on social level, I just want to hope that people see me as a leader in like the classroom and out of the classroom. I want to be that person that people think they can approach and like ask for help from, and just be that. Like one thing I've learned my whole life and like advice that I've learned is just to be kind. So I'm really hoping that people see me as like a kind person that they can trust and be friends with. So
All right. And then, Antonio, I'm going to ask you this, and this is going to be our final question, unless you got any you want to add on to here. And again, this is kind of, she talked about it, but she just talked about being kind. Why to you is just being kind in general so important?
Because if when you're kind, it makes others feel better, and when you like feel good, you're like confident. You can do things to the best of your ability, and I just want to be the giver.
Absolutely. And, I think that's kind of a great way to go ahead and wrap it up there. And again, I want to really shout out Antonio for doing such a great job today. Filling
you
in
did
for
awesome,
Pete Ferguson.
Antonio. You did great, dude.
It was a great show. And again, ticketfm.com. We'll have the podcast up here. Be up around 2 p.m. as we get through all the morning shows here. But again, shout out to Pete Ferguson. I know he's not here today, but when you go to ticketfm.com, be sure to get this podcast. And in case you missed any of the other ones, I can't say it enough. Pete Ferguson, and shout out Phil Maynard for filling in today as well. These guys do an excellent job providing these scholars, these teachers, these coaches, influencing, that kind of the community and the great work they do. So again, appreciate you guys listening. This has been Bigger Than the Score. Shout out new host Antonio for taking over today and doing a great job as well. We'll catch you guys next week on Bigger Than the Score.
Thank you.